Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. So what does food mean to you? Join me in today's show, and my special guests are Rich Celenza. Rich is an image consultant, but Rich is an author and a producer and has an interesting background, and he's going to share some tips with us on image consulting. My other special guest, in honor of International Women's Month. You know, March is International Women's Month, and I've been having on some interesting women that are doing remarkable things. And what my guest for this week is Ruth Houston, and Ruth is the Eat Smart expert. Well, stay tuned and you'll find out what that means. Ruth has some really interesting Eat Smart tips for us. Really simple tips on how to eat healthy and lose weight simply. And also stay tuned for my recipe for the St. Joseph's Zeppole. So March 19th, which was this week, was St. Joseph's Day. And it's a really big holiday in Italy and other parts in the world. So I will share my recipe for this traditional sweet that's made on St. Joseph's Day. So stay with me. Grazie is the Italian word for thank you. Make it a point to say thank you in any language at least once a day to someone. My thank yous for today go to Mother Nature for a long-awaited spring that will soon be here, and all the holidays and foods of spring, including the traditional cream puffs for St. Joseph's Day. In Italy, this is known as Father's Day. March 19th is also known in Switzerland, Portugal, Spain, and Liechtenstein. It's also celebrated in those countries as Father's Day. It's celebrated annually on the feast day of St. Joseph, and this feast has many ancient origins that began as the vigil of the spring equinox in ancient times. The traditional St. Joseph's Day meal consists of bitter orange slices drizzled with local olive oil, freshly baked bread, sweet and sour giardiniera, chickpeas, beans, peas, rice, cod, macaroni baked with breadcrumbs, fruit, and dessert. Now, dessert for this meal is usually a traditional zeppole or beignet, or even just what we call a St. Joseph's fritter. The beignet and zeppole are very similar and called different names in different regions of Italy. So here's my recipe for the zeppole, and it's basically like a cream puff with this Italian pastry cream. So first for the Italian pastry cream. The ingredients are 5 tablespoons of sugar, 5 egg yolks at room temperature, a pinch of salt, 5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 2 3/4 cup of whole milk, 1 1/2 teaspoon of lemon zest, 1 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. For the zeppole, and those are the actual like fritters or puffs, pastries, it's 2 1/2 cups of water, 1/2 cup plus 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, a pinch of salt, 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour sifted, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 cup of sugar, 7 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 cup of powdered sugar for serving. Here are the instructions in putting this all together. So for the pastry cream, you want to make the pastry cream first. Place the sugar, egg yolks, and salt in a saucepan and place over low heat. Use a wooden spoon to mix until the sugar is dissolved. Whisk in the flour, making sure no lumps form. In another saucepan, scald the milk. A skin will be formed on top, and the mixture will be just about to reach a boil, but not quite boiling. Remove the mixture from the heat right before it starts to boil. Add the scalded milk to the other saucepan, stirring constantly with a wire whisk so the mixture remains smooth. Stir until the mixture is ready to boil, but do not let it boil. Reduce the heat. Add the lemon zest and vanilla extract and continue stirring over low heat until cooled for 4 minutes. Until cooked, that is, for 4 minutes, not cooled, but until cooked for 4 minutes. The cream should be the consistency of a pudding. Remove from the heat and place a layer of waxed paper on the surface to prevent a skin from forming. Let cool at room temperature for about 3 to 4 hours. Now for the Zeppole, you're going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Place the water in a saucepan over low heat, add the butter and salt, and increase the heat to medium. When it reaches a boil, remove from the heat and add in the flour, baking soda, and sugar all at once. Stir vigorously with a wooden spoon. Return to the stove over medium-high heat and continue to stir with a wooden spoon until the mixture pulls away from the sides. Remove from the heat and add the eggs one at a time, mixing each one in well with a wooden spoon before adding another. Then add in the vanilla extract and blend in with a spoon. Cover a cookie sheet with parchment paper. Drop the mixture by tablespoons, forming into a cream puff shell onto the paper and bake in the oven for 20 minutes. Then reduce the oven temperature to 350 degrees and bake for 15 minutes. Remove the puffs from the oven when done and let them cool. Cut a small slit in the side of each cream puff to release steam so they do not become soggy. Let them cool on a baking rack. When they're cool, cut off the tops and fill each with 2 teaspoons of pastry cream. Now, if you don't want to make the pastry cream, you could also use jam or jelly and dust the top with powdered sugar. So you're going to replace the top and dust it with powdered sugar. But there's nothing like a Zeppole di San Giuseppe with Italian cream. Enjoy. And if you make these, please take a picture and share it on social media, hashtag it the Maria Liberati Show, or you can also share it on my blog. You can comment on my blog, www.marialiberati.com, or themarialiberattishow.com. You can share your pictures. We're here with Rich Celenza, and he's got a really interesting background. He's an author, a consultant, image consultant. He's even a producer, screenwriter. And Rich is, well, he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, but he's also going to give us some tips as an image consultant. He has an interesting background in the fashion industry also. So he's going to give us some tips on dressing and self-confidence and how to project that also with your image. Rich, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
You have a consulting company, correct?
Correct.
Tell us a little bit. I know we were speaking a little bit off the camera, but tell us a little bit. I think you have a really interesting background that my listeners would be interested in. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in doing what you're doing as an image consultant.
That goes way back. So my grandfather, as I told you, he owned the largest garment tailoring shop in Chicago. And then my family members, some of my aunts and uncles also spun off their own factories within that industry. And then my father wasn't necessarily interested in that industry. He went and opened his own nightclub, and he's very stylized, I guess, or very, he's incredible at what he does, but he was a really well-known hairstylist in Chicago. Oh, wow. He used to cut hair for like Paul Newman, Hugh Hefner, and decided to open his own club. So I guess to a certain degree, I was kind of programmed from my father when it comes to style. Yeah. Because he's still really, he loves style. He loves fashion. He loves all those type of things. And even my uncles were very well-known designers in Chicago. So I kind of was, involved with that and went on to do some modeling when I was in my later teens for a while in Chicago. Wasn't really interested in that and kind of found myself working in the vending business in Florida. My father retired, sold his nightclub, and then retired and did vending in Florida. And then I found myself wanting to do something different. So I went on to produce my own independent feature films. That was a
Right.
passion of mine that I always wanted to do,
Uh-huh.
which was kind of cool because I was able to dress everyone the way I wanted, if you want to talk about wardrobe,
Oh,
but also
yes.
I had different period pieces in some of the films and shot all over the city of Chicago. So I was able to incorporate a lot of my things that I love.
Uh-huh.
After doing 2 feature films, I wrote a bunch of different screenplays, some I optioned. And then I went on the write. I was really burnt out on screenplays and I started to travel a lot. I was traveling up to 220 days a year.
Uh-huh.
And I said, let me write a book. Let me take a different approach at this. And my daughter was a really well-known model. And I
Uh-huh.
wanted to make sure she was always protected. And I realized throughout the years, people within the fashion industry, how they were being taken advantage of. So I wrote a book called The Model Bible, which is a book to help women break into the industry and protect themselves. It's also a must-have guide for parents also looking to maybe oversee their children if they get into the industry, even as a teenager or late teens, or that
Right.
kind of took off. And then I made another book, Wingman, which is a must-have guide to finding the woman of your dreams.
Uh-huh.
And that did pretty decent too. So I was getting all this type of feedback and I kind of was exhausted from the film industry and just said, you know what, let me create a program called Mastering Self-Confidence. It's really for men. So there's 45 hours of content on there. And I want to help men and women with their confidence, truly become what they want to become.
Huh?
I want to help people. I mean, what it comes down to is I want people to have the confidence to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, with who they want to do it with.
Right, right.
And I kind of start from the outside in. So
tell us any, tips. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot of time, but if you were to kind of try to pinpoint tips on, because there's the expression dressing for success. So, what is, do people project? Do we project our own image from the way we dress? I know I always learned that in Italy because I also modeled and I lived in Italy actually for quite some time. And the Italians have that approach that, in America, we kind of go around a lot of times in our sweat clothes, sweatpants and all that. And I would tend to do that sometimes when I was not working or anything in Italy, and everybody would, everybody always dresses to the nines. They like to dress to the nines there. And they told me the reason that they do is because, and I learned, yes, you project, at least that's what I think, your image. And if you look successful, you feel successful, are those, so tell me what would you say on that as far as dressing for success?
Well, I have a lot of family members in Italy and I go to Italy.
Yes.
And nothing against a lot of my Italian cousins or aunts and uncles. A lot of them do dress a certain way, but that doesn't necessarily mean it helps their career or helps their, it almost is a setback to a certain degree because they do look great, but a lot of them struggle financially.
Yes.
Not only because of the money they spend on clothing, it's because they don't work. You know what I mean? So
yes. Well, I will
right?
agree with you there. And also the time that you have to put into dressing a certain way. If you're only going out to grab a cup of coffee and a box of pasta, it's like, why, but I guess what I meant is I thought there might be a certain degree to truth in that you want to look successful. Obviously, yes, you're absolutely right though about that. I found that too. But anyway, yes.
Oh yeah. Fashion is looking good in what you can afford. Let's call it for what it is, right?
Yes.
It's kind of my uncle had a famous saying with that. And, here's the deal when it comes to style. The last thing I want anybody to do is go in debt or go broke doing it, which most people do. Mm-hmm. Also, we have to find a look that specifically fits what you're looking to look like or become or whatever. Everyone has their own way of doing things. And I don't like to tell people to follow trends. I say set the trend, right? Yes. You are your own individual. If you want to get attention or you want to look better or look different, you're going to have the confidence to learn how to figure out what I'm going to do to get those type of results. Going to average style stores, let's say if I got to go to Nordstrom or I got to go to Bloomingdale's or Macy's, a lot of, let's say women, they all kind of all shop in the same places, even online. But like, for instance, a lot of them, I tell them, you want to put little pieces in maybe that are a little vintage, but create your own style. Life's about creating your own environment entirely. It's not about, following other celebrities, what they're wearing at that point in time. And I'm not saying that's not going to look good, But a lot of people can't afford a lot of times to dress the way they want to dress either. So what I kind of teach people is how to live an incredible life affordably. Not also waste a lot of money and have a closet full of 100 shoes and you only wear 20 or 15 of them. I call it dead inventory, because the reality is most clothing and accessories is a bad investment. You're not ever going to get your money out of that, most likely. It's only worth probably about 10% of what you paid for it, unless it's unique pieces or jewelry. But for the most part, a lot of clothes you're buying, you know what I mean? They're going to either be out of style, or you're only going to wear them a certain amount of times, especially with social media, especially women. You're going to only wear that dress once or twice. You don't want to be seen in it again. You're going to probably go to a resale shop to try to get your money back or try to sell it online. But you know, really what it all comes down to with fashion or your identity or styles, you have to be comfortable in what you're creating from top to bottom. Do not get caught up with what your friends or how they're dressing or how your favorite celebrity is dressing. I teach we need to create what works for you and what you're going to feel comfortable in and the most confident in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the one thing that it just drives me nuts when people want to copy, you know, a style of someone else. And I always say just what you say, you're your own unique person. And a lot of times the hottest styles, right, don't look good on you, and it's not anything bad about you. It's just that your body type or your hair color or whatever isn't the same, so it just doesn't work. But you can make yourself look absolutely just as fantastic, right, if you find what works on you. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you, what about thrift stores? Do you ever recommend people going to find vintage pieces in thrift stores? I found some in really great.
Yes.
There you go.
I have a YouTube video and I visit some of the top resale consignment stores all over North America, including Canada, because really those are sometimes where you're going to find the most unique and best, you know, pieces in the country. Yes. And the thing is, resale and consignment stores, what I love is you get to try them on. You know, you get to test them. A lot of people are buying things online, and as you know, a lot of times it may not fit. It may be the wrong color. You're not getting what you think you're getting. But if you go to certain places, like obviously New York, LA Fashion District, or like say Palm Springs, Palm Desert, South Florida, Midwest is a little shaky, but there's some incredible consignment stores and resale stores that it's going to be amazing what you can find there. And again, you got to piece it together. I do think sometimes maybe if you buy something that's a little extremely outdated and you try to kind of pull it off, which you may, but you know, what life comes down to again with fashion or style is experimenting. Too much of us actually get locked into an identity, always looking the same, but wanting to change, but not willing to, you know, test the waters a little bit. But I tell people, test them a little bit. Even if you want to test a woman, I tell them with their hair, let's go get a wig. Let's go to a wig shop. Let's hang out there. Don't commit to cutting it all off, or let's not commit to a color yet. Go buy a wig, try it on for a week. Because most likely after a certain amount of time, you're going to get bored with that. Very similar to your clothes, right? Exactly. So it's all about kind of, you know, so many people want to look different, but nobody wants to make the change. So to make change, you're going to have to accept change, right? So exactly. And that goes for men, especially men. Geez, it's hard to make a change, but once they do, and I start off with little increments. I usually start with the face a little bit with the shades and glasses and hair. And I also go with the shoes, because I think if I put a woman or a man in the right type of shoes, again, that they can afford, not something where they spend $700 on or $500, where they have a credit card debt, it changes their whole persona. So,
oh, wow. That's great. That's good to hear. Yes. Yes. And those are things that are so important. You don't need to go into debt really to look great. And you need to find things that work for you, style as well as budget, right? That works for you. So Rich, if anyone wants to find out more about you or take advantage of your consulting, where can they find you?
richcelenza.com is where you're going to really find everything about me. You can connect also to all my social media platforms. And you can also see my YouTube, my podcast. There's links on everything, including my programs, including the books, including, you know, LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or all those as well.
Exactly. Oh, that's great. That's great. Great. Thank you so much for being here. And hopefully we'll have you back in the future also.
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks. Yes, so today we have a special guest, Ruth Houston. Ruth is going to tell us a little bit about her background, but She's going to be talking about this interesting new book that she has coming out, and she's an Eat Smart expert. Her book is called Eat Smart, Lose Weight, and it's a topic kind of dear and near to my heart because, as I was telling Ruth, I was a model for many years, and I had to figure out how to really do that without doing any kind of crazy dieting or things that would really hurt my health. So I had to stay healthy, but eat smart. Ruth, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So Ruth, tell us, I know you were telling me before we started recording, you were an editor for, is it Black Elegance magazine or
Black Elegance magazine. For 10 years, I was fashion editor for Black Elegance magazine.
Oh, wow.
Actually, I held the dual position of fashion editor and special projects editor. So that encompassed the food, the travel writing, fitness, and all those lifestyle topics. I'm basically a lifestyle journalist.
Yes, wow. So tell us how you got the idea or to do this Eat Smart and Lose Weight concept.
Well, I was going to do an updated version of an article that I wrote many years ago called Diet Strategies That Work. And I thought that I would just kind of research what was done, the latest research that was being done about obesity and diet and weight loss and the whole bit. And there was so much new information as I started gathering facts and researching and checking the various respected medical journals, Journal of American Medical Association, all of those types of publications. I was amazed. And most of all, I was amazed at all of the many things tested, researched, tried and true things that people can do to lose weight that have absolutely nothing to do with going on a diet or exercising for hours in the gym.
Yes,
and these are things that the weight loss industry knows, but I like to say they're things that the weight loss industry does not want the public to know and hopes that they'll never find out. Because after all, we're talking about an industry, diet and weight loss, that's predicted to reach, I think it's like $246 billion in 2022. Now, if you can lose weight without their products and services, certainly not going to be very happy about that. So while they are well aware of these little tricks, tips, tactics, and techniques, they have no vested interest in publicizing them because it's contrary to making a profit for them.
Yes, yes. And you don't need these products that really probably don't do anything anyway, but just make people, wealthy from selling them. So, but I know.
And we've been brainwashed. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yes, it was very interesting.
We've been brainwashed, Maria, to think that by the diet and weight loss industry, to believe all these things that really aren't true. That weight loss should be hard, that it should involve counting calories, that starving yourself, skipping dessert, giving up your favorite foods, restricting whole categories of food. None of those things are really necessary to lose weight.
Wow. So interesting. So I know there were two things, Ruth, that you wanted to really talk about because I had asked if you could give us some tips and ideas. So the two things I know, one was eating out tips, because you were saying people think they want to know how, or they can't go out and eat Italian if they want to lose weight, right? That's think they can't.
They think that, and they're so wrong. I mean, there's so many little things. There's so many things. I mean, if you just look at a menu with knowledge of what to look for, there are lots of weight-friendly options to choose from. If you start with a nice veggie-rich broth-based minestrone soup, that's excellent for losing weight. Starting your meal with a broth-based soup. So you've got a nice minestrone soup there. If you want pizza, you can have a thin crust pizza. You don't have to deny yourself. If you want pasta, people think, oh, I can't have pasta. I can't have pasta. You can have marinara sauce. There's red or white clam sauce. There are other dishes, Maria. I know you're well, very familiar
No,
with.
but I'm glad you're telling. Go ahead. Yes, definitely. Tell people.
So there's no reason to, a nice wine-based sauce. There's no reason to deny yourself Italian food if you're trying to lose weight.
Yes. And tell us about, I was just going to say, I specifically started with the Italian because that's kind of my base mostly, but tell us about other foods and other tips for eating out, because obviously we don't always eat out Italian.
True. Well, there are general things that would apply to any restaurant. First of all, normally you sit down and the first thing you get is a bread basket.
Right.
Bypass that bread basket.
Yes.
You can eat a whole meal's worth of calories from the bread basket before you even start choosing from the menu. So just skip that unless you're really a bread fanatic. Okay, then so you have a piece of bread. Don't go overboard with it.
Right.
Many times restaurants serve, it's a pet peeve of mine, serve food on these huge plates the size of hubcaps.
Yes.
And one of the greatest tips for losing weight is to use a smaller plate. If you think about it, say we've got this much food, and we put it on a salad plate, that plate's going to look full. But if you put that same amount of food on a large 14-inch dinner plate, now you've got all this extra space around it. Your brain is already thinking, oh, this is not enough food. Whereas that same amount on a small, and you're automatically thinking, well, I'm going to have seconds. This isn't going to be enough.
Right.
So you're already programmed to eat more before you even take the first bite.
Yes.
But if you've got that food on a smaller plate, it looks like a lot. And now your brain is thinking, this is a lot of food. Maybe I might not even be able to eat it all. So the brain is programmed to eat a full plate of food, but the brain doesn't care whether that's a salad plate that's full or whether it's a huge dinner plate that's full. It's programmed to eat a full plate of food and be satisfied.
Yes.
The other thing is that we want to speed eat. We want to rush through our food. Americans tend to do that. We're going to eat very fast, speed eating. Speed eating leads to overeating. It takes your stomach at least 20 minutes to let your brain know that you're full. So you want to eat slowly. You want to make your meal last at least 20 minutes. Maria, to me and to many others, eating is one of life's pleasures. You can't enjoy your food if you're sitting there obsessing about, oh, how many calories? And if I eat this, I might gain 2 extra pounds. You can't enjoy your food. You can't enjoy your food if you're speed eating. You want to slow down, take your time, make your meal. You get more enjoyment out of your food. When you enjoy your food, you won't need to eat as much because you will be satisfied with a smaller amount. The other thing is that we rush through food and we don't even, Maria, you're a chef, okay? Now, chefs put great effort into the plating of a dish.
Yes.
The part of the enjoyment of eating is to admire the plating, the way the food is arranged on the plate. That enhances your enjoyment of the food. You don't want to just dig right in without even taking time to look at how the food's very artfully arranged on the plate. Admire it. It'll add to your enjoyment of the food.
Exactly. Wow, all great tips. One of my tips that I would have to throw in, and you might even have this in your book, I started realizing most restaurants serve these, just like you were saying, these gigantic portions. And It's like, I don't even want to be in front of that big of a plate to be tempted to eat that much. So what I do a lot of times, I go to the appetizer menu and I'll order something. If there's enough of a choice there, I'll order, say, maybe 1 or 2 appetizers And that's usually really enough of a portion.
Exactly. Enough
So,
for a whole meal. Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
The other thing you can do is
Uh-huh.
and that is one of the tips in the book.
Yes.
One of the other things you can do is that if you know you're in a place that's known for gigantic, supersized portions of food, have them wrap half to go before they even bring it to the table.
That's a
That
good
way you're not
idea.
looking at all that food and you're
Yes.
and figuring out how you're going to eat it, and
Yes.
and you've still got room for dessert.
Yes. That's great. That's all great ideas. So, because I know I hear this all the time. People say, "Oh, I'm on a diet. I can't go out to eat." You can. It's just you have to think about really, putting these tips into play. Very easy tips. So I know the other chapter from your book that you were going to give us tips on is the kitchen tricks. You told me there were lots of tricks in the kitchen, right?
Yes.
Easy tricks for to keep your weight healthy.
The way your kitchen is set up can either support or sabotage your weight loss efforts. One study found that obese people, when in comparison to those who of normal weight or slim, tended to have more food sitting out on the counter. Not only did they have more things sitting on the counter, it wasn't weight-friendly food. They had you want to think in terms of what's weight-friendly. We want, when we're hungry, we tend to eat what's readily available, what's easily accessible. Yes. So now if you've got a cookie jar, a giant cookie jar sitting there, you're going to eat cookies. If you've got a fruit bowl sitting there, then you'll have a piece of fruit, a couple of pieces of fruit. Yes. The other thing, where do you keep your weight-friendly food? Is it hidden in the refrigerator behind a carton of milk and the cake you bought yesterday and all the other pound-producing food? Or is it front and center so that as soon as you open your refrigerator, that's what you see? Veggie sticks, fruit, things that are weight-friendly. Right. Well, how are your cabinets? How's your pantry arranged? All those people, it's very easy to say, well, just don't buy it and don't have it in the house. That's not always realistic. You may have other family members that want to eat those things. So what do? How do you store them? Where do you put them so that they support your weight loss goals? Turn them around backwards. So that when you open the cabinet or the refrigerator, you're not looking at that tempting picture of the food. What you're seeing is the nutrition panel, which will make you stop and think, well, no, maybe I should have something else instead of this. So, things like that. There's just so much that we can do. When we're cooking food, for example, of course, we want to taste the food to make sure that it's seasoned properly, but sometimes we can go overboard with this. And if you're not really aware, it's a lot of this, the little habits that you want to be aware of, little things that you can change. If you're aware that you're one of those over tasters, then think twice, because you can taste, are you tasting or are you eating a small meal? You can eat the equivalent of a small meal if you keep repeatedly tasting. Yes. So, and then another thing, with the pandemic, practically over now and things coming back to normal, and we've got these COVID masks. Well, your COVID mask can come in handy, because if you're in the kitchen and you're wearing your COVID mask, you can't just pop food in your mouth. You will stop and think. You've got that barrier, like, wait a minute. So that can keep you from randomly nibbling while you're in the kitchen around all that food. We tend to nibble here, nibble there.
Yes. Wow. All great and really simple, easy things that people can do. Whereas it's just, it's almost like there's really no reason to try all these really, really simple things that are kind of no-brainers.
I would love to share my favorite tip.
Yes, go ahead.
This tip, this weight loss tip, is so powerful, so effective, and so neglected because it's so simple. People think, oh no. When I talk to people about what I do and they go, oh, give me a tip, give me a tip.
Right.
And I say to them, drink a large glass of water before every meal or snack. And you know what they say, Maria? No, 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 give me a real tip. Now, here's what studies have found, multiple studies have found that if you change nothing else about what you're eating, you don't count a single calorie, don't skip a single dessert, don't give up any of your favorite foods. If all you do is drink a large glass of water before every meal or snack, depending on how much excess weight you have, by the end of the year, you will have lost anywhere between 12 and 20 pounds.
Wow. And just by drinking water.
Effortless.
Yes,
just
it is.
Drinking a large glass of water before every meal is snack. Who can't drink a glass of water?
And you know what?
An obese child can drink a glass of water.
Yes.
If you're eating in a restaurant, you can drink a glass of water. If you're at home, if you're at work, if you're traveling, if you're on vacation, if you're dining out at a friend's place, a college student away at college, anybody can, a senior citizen in an assisted living facility. Who can't drink a glass of water? How simple is that?
Yes, it is. It's a very,
and
very
yet people overlook it. Well, that's too simple. How could that possibly have any effect?
Yes, and it does. I know in my
tip.
research, it is. I found that to be the truth, and I try to do that. I don't always do that, but I know that I try to do that because I heard that more than a few years ago, just researching. Yes, so that's a really good, simple tip, and it's really good for you too, because drinking water keeps you hydrated and helps you from dehydrating, which people do and they don't realize it. So that's got an extra added benefit. But yeah, it's so simple. I think people don't want to think of losing weight as a simple thing. They want their thing programmed. Right. Program, just like you were saying at the beginning, that people have been programmed to think that it's a difficult thing. So I guess when you're giving them these simple tips, they're like, no, give me a real tip. It can't be that simple. So
and almost every chapter in Eat Smart and Lose Weight has at least one weight loss tip, because it can help in so many ways. If you get that midnight snack attack, drink a glass of water and wait 5 minutes. Normally cravings will pass in 5 minutes. So if you drink a glass of water, wait 5 minutes, you may find, well, gee, I don't want that snack after all. Do the same thing if you're tempted to have seconds. Drink a glass of water before having sex, and then wait a few minutes, chat with your dinner companions, but water, it's such a powerful tip for losing weight, and it's so overlooked, so neglected, and it's just so simple.
Wow. Lots of really simple ideas, great ideas. So Ruth, this book is coming out, you said, in the next couple of months?
It will be within the next couple of months. You know what the delay is, Maria? The research never stops on obesity, weight loss, and weight maintenance, weight control, all those things. And I keep wanting to, because I'm staying on top of all of the studies. And I keep wanting to say, oh, wait, let me hold it up. I want to add this. Oh, this study is going on. Let me wait for these results and see. And
that's
so,
interesting.
it's funny because one of my author friends said to me, you're going to have to stop this. You're over researching. Version 1 is better than version none. Just do it and then update it, but get it out there, because people keep saying, well, where is it? We want it now.
Sure, with all these interesting tips, I'm sure people are definitely wanting the book, but I could understand that because research is being done all the time and new things are coming out. But yeah, you're probably going to have to eventually release it, and then maybe your version 1, and then do an update, your second version.
Yeah.
once you get some more, because research is always being done, on losing weight. It's such a hot topic. That's great.
is.
So, Ruth, where can people find you? And I know you have another book coming up. Did you want to mention that other book that you're going to
That
start
one's
with?
going to be a little bit longer, but I'm in the middle now of working on a book on cruise ship food. Actually, I was working on it before the pandemic,
Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
eating my way off through the Caribbean on cruise ship. I also do cruise ship food lectures for a couple
Oh,
of the
wow.
cruise lines.
Uh-huh.
But I was in the midst of that when they shut down, when the pandemic shut down the cruise
The
industry. So
cruise.
now I'm in the process of revisiting that information, and that will be out a little later. As a matter of fact, I just got back from a 2-week cruise. I'm on the West Coast right now, but
Uh-huh.
and I'm about to do another 10-day cruise just to
Uh-huh.
kind of update. I want to see what measures they've put in place post-pandemic. There have been a number of changes, but
Uh-huh.
that's another situation where people think, oh, well, I'm going on a cruise, I know I'm going to gain weight. You don't have to gain weight on a cruise. As a matter of fact, you can lose weight on a cruise. As a matter of fact, the cruise the first week of the 2-week cruise that I just finished, I
Right.
went with my sister and nephew,
Uh-huh.
and my sister actually lost 3 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
So, and surrounded with all that food and the constant eating, she
Right.
lost 3 pounds.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it's possible. People think that it can't be done, but it can be. It can be. So I just want to see what new things are being instituted.
Well, that'll definitely be an interesting book. As I mentioned, I know a lot of people that do cruising, so I'm sure there will be a lot of interest on that too. So, Ruth, where can people find you and more information for when the book comes out?
Okay, eatsmartloseweightbook.com.
Okay.
Eatsmartloseweightbook.com. On that, at the top of the website, there's a link. I keep a rotating selection of tip sheets. I think the one I have for March and April is 8 ways to trick yourself into eating less food.
There you go.
So it's a free tip sheet. They can sign up for it, and they can also sign up for the weight loss, the Eat Smart newsletter, where I just send out one tip every week.
Uh-huh.
But up until the time I may continue it after the book is out, but people are so anxious for these tips that I'm just
Yes.
kind of leaking them out one by one weekly in a newsletter. Just nothing that's going to take up a lot of time to read.
Exactly. That's great. Yes, it's an easy thing to read in a newsletter. That's great, Ruth. Well, Ruth, thank you so much. And I forgot to mention that I especially wanted to have on this whole month because it's International Women's Month. So women that are doing remarkable and very interesting things, and Ruth is one of those. So she's on today because of, I guess, we have one more week in March. So, but I've been having on especially women this month that are doing remarkable and exciting projects. So thank you so much for being here
Thank you
during
for
this
having
month.
me.
And much success with your book. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from you. Definitely reach out when your cruise ship book comes out.
Oh, I will. Absolutely.
Hear a lot about that. Great. All right, Ruth, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show, and thanks as always to my producer, Britton Roselle, and my special guests this week, Rich Celenza and Ruth Houston. And also, just a reminder to save the date for April 8th. I will be doing my traditional Italian Easter bread bake-along on Zoom. It's a virtual event, and you can sign up for this event on eventbrite.com. Registration is limited, and you can actually sign up from anywhere in the world. It will be on Zoom at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join me I love to, at least, unfortunately, don't get to see everybody in person, but I get to see all your smiling faces. So it's really nice to see everybody during the Zoom events that I do. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that my latest book, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking Diaries, subtitled Seasons, has just been released, and it's right now only available on Amazon and will be next available on barnesandnoble.com, and you'll soon be able to find it at marialiberati.com and artoflivingpremiummedia.com. So it's all about it's actually my diary that I kept in Italy while creating the Basic Art of Italian Cooking TV series that I did, and book series, and recipes to go along with it. And this book is subtitled Seasons because each chapter is a season of the year and has diary entries from those seasons and recipes that are from those seasons of the year. So I think you'll enjoy it. And again, it's available on Amazon as of yesterday. So please take a look and let us know what you think also. And stay tuned. We will probably be giving away copies of the book sometime in the near future. So, stay tuned for that as well. And also, as always, if you create any of the recipes that we share on the Maria Liberati show, for instance, the recipe today was the St. Joseph Zeppole, please take a picture and hashtag it the Maria Liberati show and share it. And we'll try and also put it on our website, themarialiberatishow.com. And as always, you can find me on marialiberati.com, on Twitter at Maria Liberati, on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, on LinkedIn at M Liberati, on Pinterest, that is at Maria Liberati, on my YouTube channel, the Maria Liberati channel, on my Roku channel, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking by Maria Liberati, and on my radio station called The Basic Art Of, and that's on Zeno Media. And until next week, peace, love, and pasta.